Some people are dealt a lousy hand at birth, and they need to deal with disease and ailments their entire lives until their death. Most of us are lucky to have a healthy life, and people only realise how important health is when they have it taken away. Have you ever heard of the boy who turned to stone? What about the boy called the devil because of his skin condition? And if you want to witness some unbelievable stories, keep watching as we look at 15 real-life inspiring stories that will touch you.
This is red, like that.
Number 15. Neil Harbisson is a New York-based cyborg artist and activist for trans species rights who was born in Spain. He's well renowned for being the world's first person to have an antenna implanted in his skull, and for claiming he is legally recognized as a cyborg by a government. To communicate with him, his antenna sends loud vibrations through his skull. This includes electromagnetic radiation readings, phone calls, music and films or images that are converted into auditory vibrations. His Wi-Fi-enabled antenna also allows him to receive satellite signals and data. Since 2004, he has been dubbed the world's first cyborg, or the world's first cyborg artist, by the international press. He co-founded the Cyborg Foundation in 2010, an international organization dedicated to defending cyborg rights, promoting cyborg art, and assisting those who desire to become cyborgs. He co-founded the Trans Species Society in 2017, an organization that provides non-human identities a voice, raises awareness of the issues they confront, fights for the freedom of self-design, and offers community-based development of new senses and organs. Number 14. On that rainy July day in 1952, Paul Alexander recalls the sound of the screen door crashing. After playing in the field behind his Dallas home, the then 6-year-old dashed inside. His neck hurt and he had a temperature. He stepped into the kitchen barefoot, trailing muck all over the floor. Behind him, the door slammed shut. He expected his mother to be furious when she saw the mess, but the dread in her voice surprised him. Polio had arrived for her son. For many parents, 1952 was a terrifying year. With approximately 60,000 cases reported across the country, it was the worst year for polio in the United States. The virus began with physical aches and a high fever for Alexander, but he soon lost his ability to move, swallow, and breathe. Doctors cut his trachea and placed him in an iron lung, a sealed tank meant to treat polio victims who couldn't breathe on their own. Doctors told him he could go home 18 months after he was hospitalized, assuming he wouldn't live much longer. From the neck down, he was nearly paralyzed, and he couldn't breathe outside the iron lung. His family carried him, along with the lung, home for what they believed would be their final Christmas together. Alexander, on the other hand, is still alive today. He's 74 and lives in Dallas. He still must rely on an iron lung to stay alive. He's one of the only people on the planet who still uses the machine. Number 13. They may appear to be two grown-ups pretending to be astronauts while doing their weekly shopping, but the two men beneath the masks have a fatal solar allergy. Thomas and Vincent Serres from Bordeaux, France, have xeroderma pigmentosum and are unable to be exposed to sunlight or ultraviolet light. The twins are more prone to develop skin cancer if they are. In other circumstances, all that is required for cancer to develop is a brief exposure to sunshine. The twins, dubbed the Children of the Moon by the French media, have been testing out a new protective mask to be able to live a regular life. The mask is transparent and vented, and it was developed by several French hospitals. Every time the boys exited the house, they had to put on a ski mask, as well as coveralls and white gloves made by NASA. The boys, who were 17 at the time, realized it was a frightening sight. The guys have managed to live a somewhat normal life and are now studying at Bordeaux University. Vincent and Thomas are two of only about 70 or 80 people in France who have the genetic disorder. It is estimated there are just 5 to 10,000 examples like this in the entire world. Vincent experienced 3 bouts of skin cancer after being diagnosed with XP at the age of 2. Francois and Bernard, concerned parents, devised strategies to keep their sons safe, including installing UV filters in their homes' windows. They also founded the non-profit Les Enfants de la Lune in 2000, with the goal of bringing people with genetic disorders together and putting pressure on medical researchers to learn more about XP. Number 12. A young woman from regional New South Wales has found new meaning as a photographer and wants to help alter the lives of other young people with disabilities after undergoing drastic but life-changing surgery to remove half her brain. Even though she's legally blind, she's discovered when she stares through the lens of her new camera, her vision is unaffected, and her outlook on the future is similar. Ms. Miller suffers from Sturge-Weber syndrome, a rare medical ailment that has left her with convulsions, a port wine birthmark on her face, and glaucoma. She has cerebral palsy as well. She had practically regular convulsions and brain herniation projecting from her forehead before surgery. Her brain's right side was essentially killing her. She wouldn't have made it here if she hadn't had this surgery. Carly got a hemispherectomy to remove half of her brain and halt her regular seizures. A choice she made on her own terms. While the notion of the extreme surgery was scary and the decision to proceed was difficult, it was all on her own terms. The risk was death, but she wasn't going to sit on the couch every afternoon with a horrible headache, screaming for someone to help her. Seizures seized the day following surgery, and she has not experienced another since. Her headaches have also subsided to only on rare occasions, and she is able to operate and anticipate the future. Following the surgery, Ms. Miller and her family spent several months recovering and rehabilitating before deciding what she should do with their new lease of life. After a friend suggested photography, she was given a camera for her 18th birthday earlier this year, and it is now virtually never out of her hands. Carly believes that whatever life throws at you, you can overcome it. Number 11. A 25-year-old man underwent a complete heart transplant in 2016, but not before surviving for more than a year without a human heart. Instead, Stan Larkin carried an artificial heart in a backpack for 555 days, which kept him alive by pumping blood around his body. The device's performance suggests it could be used to keep other patients with total heart failure alive while they await for a donor. Stan was the first patient in Michigan to be released with an artificial cardiac device known as Syncardia. As youths, he and his brother Dominique were diagnosed with familial cardiomyopathy, a genetic cardiac disorder that can induce heart failure without warning, and is one of the top causes of mortality in athletes. Stan and eventually his younger brother Dominique had their hearts removed and were put with Syncardia devices after years on the donor waiting list. When they initially met with doctors, they were both unwell. They wanted to get them heart transplants but thought they didn't have enough time. There's something about their specific anatomic position that prevents other technology from working. Stan claimed he couldn't hold his girls or give them piggyback rides because it's not the most versatile item to have on you all the time. But much to his physician's surprise, he was able to continue playing basketball. Stan received his donor heart in 2016 and made a complete recovery. He told the press about his experience, which he described as an emotional roller coaster, to raise awareness about the 5.7 million other Americans who suffer from heart failure and the need for heart donors. Number 10. Ramesh Darjee, an 11-year-old Nepalese child, is turning to stone due to a sad and incurable skin ailment. His skin gradually sheds and is replaced with hard, thick scales because of the condition. Ramesh was born a healthy baby according to his father Nanda, but 15 days later his skin began to peel and was covered with scales. The youngster is unable to move or even communicate due to his illness. Ramesh's parents sought treatment from a variety of doctors, who all informed them it was a fungal condition, with little they could do about it. His skin began to peel 15 days after his birth, and new skin began to form, although it was becoming progressively thick. They had no notion what to do when it solidified and went black. Due to an incredibly unusual disease that had frozen his torso and limbs into twisted shapes, he is now unable to walk or communicate. His mother Na is unable to walk because she spends all day caring for him, and he can only communicate when he needs to go to the bathroom or be fed. Ichthyosis is a long-term disorder caused by a defective gene passed down from parents that causes hard fish scales to grow on the skin. The condition has no cure, although it can be controlled with daily skincare and other drugs. Number 9. Humans require water to thrive, and while too much of anything is bad, some people with unusual diseases believe otherwise. While not drinking water is bad for your health, it may be a nightmare for some people. Mark Robinhorst, a 36-year-old German architect, needs at least 20 liters of water every day to stay alive, which means he can't sleep for more than 2 hours. The man has diabetes insipidus, an uncommon condition in which he is constantly thirsty due to excessive urination. Because his body can't keep water, he must urinate immediately after consuming water. He only sleeps for a few hours at night since he needs to wake up to rehydrate, something he can't do without. Mark can only spend an hour without water. Therefore, his high water intake is also hazardous to him. Drinking too much water can potentially result in water filling the brain, which has been fatal on a few occasions. Meanwhile, the architect hopes to raise awareness as he's encountered doctors who've had to look it up. Mark has trouble concentrating without water and subsequently develops a fever and loses his sense of direction. He's also at risk of dying from hyponatremia, which occurs when a person drinks too much water, causing salt levels in the blood to drop dramatically, resulting in death. Number 8. Ellie began falling and experiencing discomfort and exhaustion when she was a child. Michael and Beth McGinn, her parents, took her to several specialists to figure out what was wrong. Ellie's situation perplexed neurologists, who had never seen anything like it. Ellie's ability to walk diminished during the next 6 months. When she was eventually diagnosed, the news was not good. Ellie suffered from LBSL, a rare neurological illness. Doctors told the family that there was little hope. They were told there was no treatment and that children with this disease rarely live to adulthood. LBSL is a kind of leukodystrophy that affects the function of mitochondria in the brain, which may be thought of as our cells' energy factories, as well as the white matter of the central nervous system. Ellie would need a walker by the age of 8, and she would be in a wheelchair by the time she was a teenager. For the McGinns, doing nothing was not an option. A group of Kennedy Krieger doctors met with the family. They informed the McGinns that while they couldn't cure Ellie's genetic condition, they thought they could help. The treatment appeared to be effective. Her appetite and energy levels increased in a few weeks. Her walking improved after a few months. And within 18 months, her leg spasms, weak knees, and falling were almost gone. Ellie progressed from being unable to walk across a room without falling to being able to walk anywhere. Ellie's worst symptoms haven't reappeared, and she's back at her old self. You'd never guess anything was wrong with you if you met her. She attends school like any other youngster and enjoys swimming, sketching, and most importantly, animals. However, no one can say how long her symptoms will be suppressed. Number 7. Jonathan Piter, a 17-year-old whose courage in the face of a rare and severe skin illness acted as an inspiration as he raised awareness about epidermolysis bullosa, has died. Jonathan and his mother, Tina Boileau, were in Minnesota for Jonathan's condition treatment, which causes severe skin blistering. Johnny's story has gone viral in recent years as he let you inside his life and daily difficulties with EB while fighting diligently to raise awareness of this terrible disease. His mother is overjoyed that he accomplished this. Because their skin is as delicate as butterflies' wings, children with EB are often referred to as butterfly children. Everyone who knew him is heartbroken by his death, since he was a much-loved ambassador for the illness. Jonathan worked long and hard for all those impacted by EB, and he was amazing at raising awareness. Piter was noted for his bravery and perseverance in the face of a rare skin illness. It makes your heart sink to have someone so encouraging in the community and then hear of his passing. Number 6. Because of his disease, he may die if he falls asleep without assistance. Every time Liam settles into bed, he must be attached to a life support system and monitored. The ailment is also known as Ondine's curse. It affects only about 1,500 people worldwide and causes the patient's lungs to stop working while they sleep. It may also harm his heart rate, blood pressure, and other essential organs such as his brain. When you sleep, your phrenic nerve does not fire, and your brain does not instruct you to breathe. This is known as central hypoventilation syndrome. He can't breathe without the help of a machine, and he wouldn't be alive if it weren't for it. In addition, Liam has an unrelated intestinal problem because he was born with a big portion of the organ missing. requiring him to wear a colostomy bag as a substitute. The journey he and his family have taken thus far has been difficult, and his father Peter is concerned every night. If you ask him if he had a good night's sleep, he will tell you he hasn't had one since Liam was born. They're always on the lookout, fearful it might be the final time they say goodnight. Liam manages to go to regular school, enjoys sketching, and enjoys making things out of Lego. He is also fascinated with trains. The other remarkable feature about Liam is that he has lived with the disease from birth. Defying doctors' predictions, he would only live for 6 weeks. Liam is only a few months away from turning 18, and he is exactly like every other adolescent before him. Number 5. Dr. Adolf Ratzka became disabled at the age of 17 after getting polio and has had to rely on personal help ever since. He brought the independent living movement to Sweden and launched the Stockholm Cooperative for Independent Living, which was instrumental in the passage of Swedish legislation establishing the right to a personal support budget. His assistance makes it possible for him to work. One of their most significant responsibilities is to follow him on his travels as the director of the Independent Living Institute. He and his wife only travel together on vacations because his wife has her own job. She's an occupational therapist. He also brings an assistant, since he wants to play the same role in the family he would have without his impairment. The monthly payout from his social insurance fund includes money for the accompanying assistant's flight tickets, hotel accommodation, and food. As a result, he won't have to ask for such reimbursements every time he travels. Number 4. After impolite individuals left him heartbroken by gazing at him in the street, the parents of a 10-year-old boy with a rare skin condition were required to carry cards describing their son's condition. Jack Oldaker's skin is so brightly coloured that vicious online trolls have dubbed him Satan. To save their son from shame, his parents, Daniel and Julie, have been compelled to produce cards with information on Netherton syndrome. Each day, the pair cleans Jack's skin for 2 hours to keep it from becoming dangerously irritated or infected. They both had nervous breakdowns because of the stress of dealing with his condition. Jack was diagnosed with the disease at the age of 5 weeks, and doctors assume he received it from his parents, who both have a defective gene. The football-crazed adolescent must follow a strict daily routine that includes washing his skin and applying paraffin ointment to ensure his delicate skin is adequately protected. His illness makes it difficult for him to be outside for long amounts of time in hot weather, and he frequently spends the night scratching his itchy skin. Sufferers are at great risk of infection and have little control over their body temperature. This disease affects 1 out of every 3 people on the planet. Number 3. When Tom Tennant was born, he had enough skin to cover a 5-year-old toddler. When the newborn child was born wrinkled, doctors had never seen anything like it. Tom is a one-of-a-kind child, the first to be born with this skin condition. From the moment he was born, Tom's parents knew he was going to be a remarkable child. Although ultrasound revealed not everything was as it should have been, no one could have imagined Tom's condition to be as terrible as it was. When his parents first met him, they were taken aback, according to him. His father's heart was in his throat as he lifted him up and cuddled him, but he liked it. There was no medication or cure for Tom because they couldn't figure out what was producing his extra skin. They could only hope he would grow into his skin as he grew older. In fact, Tom's case was so uncommon, experts decided to spend time and money trying to find out what was causing his disease. Tom spent 2.5 months at a medical centre, undergoing tests and analysis. Scientists faced a tremendous challenge, but they uncovered something after digging a little further. Surprisingly, the boy's appearance resembles that of the Chinese dog breed Shar Pei, which led them to the answer. According to researchers, Tom's amount of hyaluronic acid, which is found in the skin, was 100 times higher than normal, which is also the case with Shar Pei puppies. Because the quantities of hyaluronic acid in Shar Peis decrease as they age, giving them a more average skin appearance, doctors hoped and prayed this would be the case for Tom. It was, thankfully. Tom's doctor expected the ailment would be almost completely gone as he grew older. Tom is well liked and well known in his hometown these days, but that doesn't mean unpleasant comments haven't been made in the past. He is a bright young man who excels in school. His parents declared that from the moment he was born, they knew they would never hide him. They think beauty comes from within and is more than skin deep. Number 2. Carly Henrite, a St. Louis toddler, was always a busy and adventurous child. She enjoyed swimming, running, and soccer. Then she turned 5 and life was never the same after that. Carly's big toes were shorter than her other toes, which physicians noticed one day. This was because she was missing particular bones, which alerted doctors to the fact that she had a rare and progressing condition. Carly was diagnosed with fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, which affects about 800 people. FOP has no cure, and sufferers can expect to live to be roughly 40 years old. Because FOP causes muscle and tissue to turn into bone, it is often referred to as stone man syndrome. These extra bones eventually create a second skeleton that severely limits mobility. Carly can't raise her arms above her head, bend at the wrist, or stand on 2 legs since her joints are usually locked up. Her back is like a sheet of bone, so she must use a wheelchair to get around and is in constant physical discomfort. Extra bones can form and grow inside her, even if the harm is small. Carly has reached the age of 23. It's amazing to watch how she's learnt to work around her limits and made adaptations to live as regular a life as possible. Number 1. Lalit Pattidar, a 13-year-old student, suffers from werewolf syndrome, a rare ailment that causes him to grow hair all over his body and face. He was born with congenital hypertrichosis, a disorder that causes excessive hair growth on the face, arms, and other parts of the body, and for which there is no cure at the moment. Lalit is the only son born after 5 daughters, and despite his differences, his father believes he is extraordinarily unique, because he was born after many special prayers. Even though Lalit has accepted his look because of his sickness, he still must cope with cruel bullies, strangers mocking him, stones being hurled at him, and some people calling him a monkey. His relatives and friends, on the other hand, come to his help and defend him in such situations. He periodically fantasizes about having his excess hair removed, so he may be friends with everyone. Despite his challenges, Lalit professes to live a happy life and is committed to achieving his goal of becoming an honest police officer who can convict all criminals. Lalit is a bright student who excels at sport. I must admit I feel for all these people, but it's inspiring to see how they've dealt with their specific conditions with brilliance. Which one was your favourite? Why don't you let us know in the comments below? Well, that's our look at 15 real-life inspiring stories that will touch you. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and let us know in the comments what you think. Check out our other videos and subscribe to be part of the fun. Click on the notification icon so that you can see our new videos as soon as they're uploaded. That's it for now.